My great-grandkids found the old family portrait, and their question broke 60 years of silence. It was just an old photograph on the wall, faded faces from another era, forgotten names that meant nothing to the younger generation. But when my great-grandchildren found it in the attic and asked the simplest question, "Great-Grandma Ruth, why isn't your name on here?" Time stopped. Their innocent curiosity reopened a wound the family had kept carefully bandaged for 6 decades. I thought the truth had died with those who lived it, that the secret would go to the grave with my generation. But that day, standing in that dusty attic with 2 curious children staring up at me, the ghosts of our past finally demanded to be heard. This is the story of what was taken from me, what I was forced to give up, and the family lie that lasted 60 years. It's about shame, survival, and the moment when silence finally breaks. Subscribe for stories of family secrets, hidden truths, and generational healing when children's curiosity unearths what was buried. My name is Ruth Eleanor Hartwell, and I'm 82 years old. For 60 years, I've carried a secret so heavy that some days I could barely breathe under the weight of it. Last month, my great-grandchildren found an old family portrait in the attic, a photograph taken in 1963, and asked a question that no one in our family had dared to ask for 6 decades. "Great-Grandma Ruth, why isn't your name on here?" In that moment, standing in the dusty attic with sunlight streaming through the small window, I realized the truth doesn't stay buried forever. Eventually, innocence finds it, and when it does, you have 2 choices: continue the lie or finally tell the truth. I chose the truth. This is the story of what happened when I was 17 years old, what my family took from me, and the secret we've kept hidden for 60 years. It was a Saturday afternoon. My granddaughter Monica had brought her twin children, Emma and Jack, both 11 years old, to visit me at my home in Savannah. They were energetic, curious kids who loved exploring my old Victorian house with all its nooks and crannies. "Great-Grandma, can we look in the attic?" Emma asked. "Mom said there's old stuff up there." I hesitated. The attic held more than old furniture and forgotten boxes. It held memories I'd locked away. But how do you tell an 11-year-old that some rooms are better left unexplored? "All right," I said finally, "but be careful. Some of those boxes are heavy." Monica went up with them while I stayed downstairs making lemonade. My knees aren't what they used to be, and the attic stairs are steep. About 20 minutes later, Emma came running down, clutching something carefully in her hands. "Great-Grandma, look what we found!" It was the portrait, the Hartwell family portrait, taken in August 1963 in front of our family home. Professional photographer, everyone dressed in their Sunday best, arranged in neat rows on the front porch. My heart stopped when I saw it. "Isn't this cool?" Emma said, her eyes bright with excitement. "Look how old-fashioned everyone looks. Their clothes are so different." Jack came down behind her, carrying the frame. "There's a list of names on the back. See?" He turned it over, and there it was, the brass plate affixed to the back of the frame, listing every person in the photograph. 23 names in elegant script. My name wasn't among them. "Who are all these people?" Emma asked, bringing the portrait to me. I took it with trembling hands. I hadn't looked at this photograph in probably 30 years, maybe longer. There we all were, my parents, Samuel and Dorothy Hartwell, my 3 older brothers, Thomas, William, and Robert, with their wives and children, my 2 younger sisters, Margaret and Catherine, still unmarried at the time, and there, in the back row, partially hidden behind my sister Margaret, was me, 17 years old, thin as a rail, my face barely visible. But while everyone else was smiling at the camera, I was looking down, away, like I was trying to disappear. "This one in the back? Is that you, Great-Grandma?" Jack pointed at my partially obscured face. "Yes," I whispered, "that's me. But your name isn't on the list." Emma had taken the frame and was reading the names carefully. "See? It goes, Samuel Hartwell, Dorothy Hartwell, Thomas Hartwell, William Hartwell, Robert Hartwell, Margaret Hartwell, Catherine Hartwell, but it skips you." "Why?" Monica had come downstairs by then. When she saw what the kids were holding, her face went pale. "Kids, why don't you go get some lemonade from the kitchen?" "But Mom, we want to know." "Emma, Jack, kitchen, now." They recognized that tone. They set down the portrait and headed to the kitchen, confused but obedient. Monica turned to me. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that was up there. I would never have let them." "It's all right," I said quietly, though it wasn't. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. "You don't have to explain anything to them. We can just put it back." "No." My voice was stronger now. "No more hiding. They asked a fair question. They deserve an honest answer. But they're only 11. I was 17. If I was old enough to live through it, they're old enough to hear about it." I called the children back into the living room. Monica looked uncertain but sat down beside them. Emma and Jack settled on the floor in front of me, the portrait between them. Their faces were curious but also concerned. They could sense this was serious. "Great-grandma," Emma said gently, "you don't have to talk about it if it makes you sad." "Thank you, sweetheart. But I think it's time. Past time, actually." I took a deep breath. Where do you even begin with a story like this? "The reason my name isn't on that portrait," I said slowly, "is because when that photograph was taken, my family was pretending I didn't exist." Confused looks. Why would they do that? Because I'd done something that brought shame to the family. At least, that's what they believed. Something that couldn't be forgiven. Something that meant I no longer deserved to be acknowledged as a Hartwell. What did you do? And there it was. The question I'd been avoiding for 60 years. Chapter 2. The Truth. When shame finally gives way to honesty. "I got pregnant," I said. The words felt strange after 6 decades of silence. I was 17 years old, unmarried, and I got pregnant. Emma and Jack looked at each other, then back at me, processing. "In 1963, I continued, "that was considered the worst thing an unmarried girl could do. Not just bad, unforgivable. It brought shame on the entire family, especially a family like ours, respected, church-going, prominent in the community." "What happened?" Jack asked quietly. "When my parents found out, my father was furious. I'd never seen him so angry. My mother cried for days. And my brothers acted like I'd committed murder." I paused, the memories flooding back after being dammed up for so long. "They had a family meeting, without me. And they decided what would happen. I would be sent away, to a home for unwed mothers 3 states away. I would have the baby there, give it up for adoption, and then return home. And we would never, ever speak of it again." "That's what happened?" Emma's voice was small. "That's what happened. I was sent to a facility in North Carolina. It was called a home for girls in trouble. That's actually what they called us. Girls in trouble. Like we were criminals. There were maybe 40 other girls there, all in the same situation. Some as young as 14. Some older than me. All of us sent away by families who were ashamed of us. We worked while we were there. Laundry, cleaning, kitchen duty. We weren't paid. It was considered earning our keep for the Christian charity of being housed while we carried our shame. The staff weren't cruel exactly, but they weren't kind either. They made sure we understood that what we'd done was wrong, that we were lucky to have this place, that we should be grateful for the chance at redemption. I was there for 7 months. I had the baby in March of 1963. A girl." My voice cracked. Even after 60 years, this part still destroyed me. I held her for maybe 10 minutes. They let me see her, feed her once. She had dark hair and the tiniest fingers I'd ever seen. And then they took her away. I never saw her again. Emma's eyes were filling with tears. "They didn't let you keep her?" "No, sweetheart. That wasn't how it worked back then. Unwed mothers didn't keep their babies. We were considered unfit. The babies were adopted out to proper families, married couples who could give them respectable homes. I signed papers. I didn't really understand what I was signing. I was 17, traumatized, exhausted from labor, but I signed away all rights to my daughter, permanently, irrevocably. A month later, I came home. My family picked me up, drove me back to Savannah, and when we arrived, my father sat me down and explained the rules. "This never happened. You were visiting relatives. If anyone asks, that's what you say. You will never mention the baby. You will never speak of the home. You will never bring shame to this family again." And that was it. I went back to school. I'd missed most of my senior year, but they let me finish. I graduated, and everyone pretended those 7 months hadn't happened. Except I couldn't forget. Every day I wondered about her. My daughter. Where was she? Who had adopted her? Was she happy? Did she ever think about me? But I never said anything, because that was the deal. Silence in exchange for being allowed back into the family. At 5 months after I came home, the family portrait was taken. It was my father's idea. He wanted a formal photograph to commemorate the family, show the world what a respectable, successful clan the Hartwells were. I was included in the photograph, physically, but when my father had the brass nameplate made for the back, he deliberately left my name off. I noticed immediately. I asked my mother about it, and she said, I'll never forget her words. Ruth, you're lucky to be in the picture at all after what you put this family through. Don't push your luck. So I didn't. I stayed quiet, and the portrait hung in our family home for years with everyone's name listed except mine. A constant reminder that I wasn't really one of them anymore, that I'd been tolerated, not forgiven. Did you ever find your daughter? Jack asked. His voice was barely a whisper. No. The word was heavy as stone. I tried. Years later, in the 1980s, when I was in my 40s and my parents had passed away, I tried to find her. I contacted the home, requested records, but the adoptions from that era were sealed, completely closed. I wasn't allowed to know anything about where my daughter went or who adopted her. I hired a private investigator. He hit dead ends. The records had been lost or destroyed. The home itself had closed in the 1970s. I spent thousands of dollars and years of searching, and I never found her. So somewhere out there, I have a daughter who's 60 years old now. She probably doesn't even know she was adopted. Or if she does, she has no idea how to find me. And I have no idea how to find her. Emma was crying now. Monica was crying too, her arm around her daughter. Great-grandma, that's so sad, Emma said through her tears. Yes, sweetheart, it is. But it's also the truth. And the truth, even when it's sad, is better than a lie. Did anyone else in the family know? Jack asked. Oh, they all knew. My siblings knew. Their spouses knew eventually. But no one ever talked about it. It became this family secret that everyone carried but no one acknowledged. When your great-grandfather and I got married 3 years later, yes, I eventually married. His name was Harold, and he was a kind man who knew my story and loved me anyway. Even at my wedding, no one mentioned it. We had children, your grandfather among them, and I never told them. The secret just continued. Why didn't you tell anyone? Monica asked. Why carry that alone for so long? Shame, I said simply, and fear. Shame that I'd done something so unforgivable, and fear that if I talked about it I'd be rejected all over again, that people would judge me, that I'd bring disgrace on my children. It was a different time, Monica. The stigma of being an unwed mother. It didn't fade just because years passed. I knew women whose own families disowned them permanently for getting pregnant outside marriage. I was lucky, in a twisted way, that mine took me back at all. So I stayed silent, for 60 years, through my marriage, through raising my children, through becoming a grandmother and then a great-grandmother. The secret just stayed buried. Until today. Emma stood up and came to me, wrapping her thin arms around my neck. I'm sorry that happened to you, great-grandma. It wasn't fair. No, honey, it wasn't. But that's how things were back then. Jack joined his sister, hugging me from the other side. You should be on the nameplate. You're part of the family. And that's when I started crying. Really crying. For the first time in decades. Because these children, these beautiful, innocent, loving children, they didn't see shame when they looked at me. They didn't see disgrace. They saw their great-grandmother, and they thought I deserved to be acknowledged, to be named, to be remembered. What my own family had denied me 60 years ago, my great-grandchildren were offering freely. Acceptance. Arskatha, I want to do something, Emma said suddenly. For you, to make it right. Sweetheart, you can't fix what happened. No, but I can fix the portrait. We can make a new nameplate, one with your name on it, where it should have been all along. Jack nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, we can take it to that engraving place in town, the one that does trophies and stuff. I looked at Monica. She was smiling through her tears. I think that's a wonderful idea. Mom, what do you think? I had to pause to collect myself. I think that would be healing. 2 weeks later, Monica called me. Mom, we're coming over. We have something for you. When they arrived, Emma and Jack were vibrating with excitement. Emma was carrying a package wrapped in brown paper. "We got it done," she announced. "Want to see?" We went to the living room where I'd hung the old portrait temporarily. I'd taken it down from the attic after our conversation, unable to leave it hidden any longer. Jack carefully removed the old brass plate while Emma unwrapped the new one. And there it was, a new nameplate, identical to the original in style and font. But this one listed all 24 people in the photograph, including me. Ruth Eleanor Hartwell, beloved daughter, sister, wife, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. They mounted it on the back of the frame. Emma stood back, admiring their work. "There, now it's complete." I stared at it, unable to speak. After 60 years of being unnamed, unacknowledged, erased, there I was, named, recognized, claimed. "Do you like it, Great-Grandma?" Jack asked anxiously. "I love it," I whispered. "Thank you. Thank you both so much." But Emma wasn't done. She pulled something else from her backpack, a notebook. "We also did this," she said shyly. "Jack and I. We wrote down everything you told us, about what happened, about the home and the baby and how you weren't put on the nameplate. We wrote it all down so we wouldn't forget, so the story wouldn't get lost. And we want to share it," Jack added. "Not in a bad way, but we think your daughter, our great-great-aunt, we think she deserves to know about you. So we're going to put it on one of those ancestry websites, with your picture, so if she's looking, she can find you." My heart stopped. "You'd do that?" "She's family," Emma said simply. "Even if we've never met her. She's your daughter. She deserves to know her family." 3 months later, I got an email. It came through one of the ancestry websites Emma and Jack had created a profile on. The subject line read, "Are you Ruth Eleanor Hartwell, who gave birth in March 1963? My hands shook so badly I could barely click to open it. The email read, "Dear Mrs. Hartwell, I found your story on this ancestry site. I believe you might be my birth mother. I was born in March 1963 at the Home for Unwed Mothers in North Carolina. I was adopted shortly after birth and raised by a family in Virginia. I've been searching for you for 20 years. I always knew I was adopted, and when I turned 18, I tried to find information about my birth parents, but all the records were sealed. I never gave up hoping that someday I'd find you. And now, thanks to your great-grandchildren sharing your story, I have. If you're willing, I'd very much like to meet you, to know you, to tell you that I've had a good life and that I don't blame you for what happened, and to tell you that I've always wanted to know my mother. My name is Jennifer. I'm married, with 3 children and 5 grandchildren, and if you're willing, I'd love for you to meet them. Your daughter, Jennifer." I'm sitting here now, 3 weeks after receiving that email. Jennifer is coming to visit next month. She's flying in from Virginia with her husband. We've talked on the phone twice, awkward, emotional conversations where we both cried and laughed and tried to compress 60 years into an hour. She doesn't resemble me much in photos. She got her father's features, I think. But when she smiles, I see something familiar, something that makes my heart recognize her even though we've been separated for 6 decades. Emma and Jack are beside themselves with excitement. They've already declared that Jennifer's grandchildren are their cousins, even though the family tree gets complicated at that point. Monica is planning a big family dinner for when Jennifer arrives. "Everyone should meet her," she said. "She's family, and she is. She always was, even when she was taken from me, even when I wasn't allowed to speak her name, even when the family pretended she didn't exist. She was always my daughter, and now, finally, I get to know her." Epilogue. The old family portrait hangs in my living room now. The new nameplate is affixed to the back, all 24 names listed, including mine. But I've added something else. A small printed card tucked into the corner of the frame. It reads, "To Emma and Jack, who asked the question no one else would ask, who broke 60 years of silence with simple curiosity and honest compassion, who taught their great-grandmother that truth is stronger than shame, and that family is defined by love, not perfection. Thank you for giving me my name back, and for helping me find my daughter. Love always, Great-Grandma Ruth." Sometimes children save us, not despite their innocence, but because of it. They ask the questions we're too afraid to ask. They speak the truths we've learned to bury. They see the injustice we've learned to accept. And sometimes, if we're brave enough to answer them honestly, they heal wounds we thought were permanent. My name is Ruth Eleanor Hartwell. I'm 82 years old. I'm a mother of 4, grandmother of 9, and great-grandmother of 12. And I'm also the birth mother of Jennifer, who I'm meeting next month for the first time in 60 years. The secret that defined my life for 6 decades is no longer a secret. It's just my story. Sad in parts, beautiful in others, and finally, complete. All because 2 11-year-olds found an old portrait and asked a simple question. "Great-grandma, why isn't your name on here?" Thank God they did.